Now, the Deputy Minister for Bono East Region and Member of Parliament for Techima North Constituency, Martin Otigako, has filed his nomination to contest for the 2020 parliamentary elections. The MP, who's contesting for re-election on the ticket of the NPP, is confident that the constituents would vote for him based on his track record in job creation for the youth in the last 4 years.
The incumbent Member of Parliament for Techima North Constituency and Deputy Bono East Regional Minister Martin Otigako has submitted his nomination forms to the Electoral Commission as candidate to contest the 2020 parliamentary elections. This is the second time Mr. Otigako will put himself up for the position, having done same in 2016, where he defeated the then Deputy Education Minister, Mr. Alex Chemi of the NDC. The NPP MP is optimistic that his track record as a Member of Parliament in job creation is enough to earn him a second term.
That we submitted our forms and looking at the grounds, not here, not the people that followed us to submit the forms, but rather those outside there. It tells you that they are ready, because since we came, that is 2016 up to date, we've done our best. That I said, I can categorically say that what we've done in terms of employment, in terms of giving job to the youth, will let the Techima North people vote for us again. If I vote for His Excellency and that of Martin Otigako. So far,
I want to appeal to you as our teachers.
Now, the national organizer of the New Patriotic Party, Sami Owuku, has emphasized that the governing party would remain vigilant in the December 7 polls. This, he said, was to ensure there is free, fair, transparent and credible general elections to ensure credible results are arrived at.
I want to appeal to you as our teachers. Let's not take things for granted. For many of you and your colleagues, you will be agents. We are going to be officials, you and your colleagues, because when the Electoral Commission is recruiting, mostly they are teachers. The NPP don't want to be favored in these polls, but the NPP will remain vigilant and ensure every ballot is counted and counted properly. We don't expect our opponents to be favored, and no region will be declared a no-go area in this united Ghana. Wherever we need to campaign, I can assure you as a party, we will campaign. We will campaign to teachers across the country, nurses across the country, traders across the country, students across the country. Each and every voter will hear our message of hope against hopelessness from Mahama. On the ballot paper will be a choice between prosperity and poverty. And we stand with God's side, that is the NPP. We stand with Nanado's side. On the ballot paper will also be a choice between competence and incompetence.
And that's it for the AM News. I am Apita CBD. The AM Show continues with Mama V.
Oh, hello there. Welcome to the review segment of our show, where we take you through the newspapers. We'll tell you what's online as well on myjoyonline.com and Go International. Joseph Akable is here in studio. Joseph Opoku Gakpo, our parliamentary correspondent, will be joining us via Zoom. But before we even do that, I have a special birthday dedication. I missed this last Friday, so let's do it this way. A belated birthday to Yao Danso Kwakwa of Madonna School, Koforidua, and a belated one because last Friday was your birthday, which I missed. Yao Boahen Kwakwa of St. Peter's Senior High School in Kwetia, Kwewu. Your dad says he loves you so much, and that was to you as you both celebrated your birthday. I hope that you had fun. All right, now, before we get down to the newspapers, let's give you the weather update. Let's tell you how the weather will be like throughout the day today, so you can watch out and avoid going through areas that will probably get flooded when it rains, as we saw on Saturday. So the weather will be on the screen shortly whilst we, okay, there you have it. So we're just going to open it up a bit so that you can pay attention to it. So it's going to be largely cloudy this morning, later in the afternoon in many parts of the country. Aflao, Accra, Kaswa, Cape Coast, Takoradi. Let's look at Kaswa critically because that's one of the areas of concern. It's going to be cloudy this morning, cloudy later in the afternoon as well, which means potential rains in those areas where it is going to be cloudy today. So pack appropriate tools as you leave home because there's a possibility of rain and thunderstorm, like they put it. Accra, Aflao, Kaswa, Cape Coast, Takoradi, Exim, Ho, Kofrodia, Akemoda, Kumasi, Obuasi, Takwa, Sefi, Bakwai, Kete Krachi, Kentampo, Go, Susunyain, Techiman, Yendi, Tamale, Bole, Damongo, Bolgatanga, Nalerugu, and Wa. All these areas, possibility of rain because it's largely going to get cloudy this morning. Get an umbrella before you leave home. And that's the weather updates. We will talk about the floods on the show properly, but Joseph, did you experience any of this? Because we were in Kumasi.
Yes, and it was raining when I was heading towards that side, but I've seen pictures and videos from Kaswa, specifically the Malam area, where the entire road was flooded, and it's very scary. I saw a vehicle that had more than 50% of its parts covered and was still moving, and I was really scared for the driver in the car. I mean, it's unfortunate we have to be discussing this again, but it is a problem that needs to be solved. So
this is, discussing it, like we say, it's a broken record. We talk about it each time it happens, but is anybody listening? Is anybody trying to fix something? Or are we just playing with it?
Well, it's not in doubt that people are listening, neither is it in doubt that people who ought to listen are aware of what is also happening. But it is a case of us not being able to just find our solutions, sustainable solutions that resolve the issue once and for all. And quite recently, someone sent me a photograph of a newspaper. It's a daily graphic report from the 1960s that had Ghana's first president, Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, going on a tour of flood-affected areas. And if you read the story, you can substitute the dates, you can substitute the names, and the communities are still the same areas, parts of Accra. The only thing that changes is the fact that it's an old story. I mean, everything is the same. Everything is the same. People's homes flooded, they had to be moved. There were issues about the fact that people are built in waterways. There were issues about the lack of drainage. It's just the same issue, I mean. But it's a serious matter, and we need to find a solution to it, because the fact of the matter is that we have tried, we've invested money, and we are still getting it wrong. And what is strange is we are looking at the Malam Road. It's a major road, and quite recently, if you recall, there was this project that they did. They constructed a culvert across the road that caused traffic more than a month. And the understanding was that this was what was going to resolve the matter, and yet afterwards, it's not the solution. So.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's welcome Joseph Opoku Gakpo. Good morning to you, Joseph.
Mavi, good morning. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm great. How are you?
Nice. I'm also doing well. You guys were in Kumasi. It was a big celebration. I missed out.
Oh, we were, because our producer got married on Saturday. It was a very beautiful ceremony. It was a happy day. Atmosphere was fantastic. I brought some visuals along with me, so I'll be sharing it.
Let's see that in details. Now it's Akablay's turn. Now that's a custom.
Is it a roll call or something?
Yes, I'm the one setting the timetable and drawing the timeline.
I hate asking this question. Now that you put the spotlight on Akablay, how about you?
Can we talk about the floods? It's a big issue. In fact, it came up in Parliament.
How convenient.
Just last week, when the water resources, the Works and Housing Minister was in Parliament, and there were questions to him, from the media about what is being done to deal with this problem going forward. And his response was that it requires very big money, to the extent that the regular budget of the ministry will not be able to fix it. And so he floated this idea, which Mr. Atachia says he's taking to cabinet, that there should be he said it before, the infrastructure bond, and that if on a regular day, government would float bonds to raise money to fix the economy, same should be done for infrastructure. so that then the nation's huge infrastructure deficit can be fixed once and for all, and then the money repaid over time. We wait to see.
So that's the solution. We need lots of money,
which the state doesn't have at the moment.
Wow.
And so then we need to find very innovative means of raising the money, which hasn't, gone through the necessary processes in order to then become a reality in terms of
Interesting.
the innovative processes to raise
Well,
the money. So I will live with it for some time to come.
Yeah, this matter is on our table today. So let's do the newspapers. We'll come back to this issue. Joseph?
Let me start from the front page of the Daily Guide. It says torrential rain batters Accra. It has a photograph of a flooded area with some individuals moving in the water. How NPP MP was murdered also on the front page. And Volta rebels adopt new strategy. And go to court if you have issues with results. It's coming from the Asante Hene. The back page of the Daily Guide says Akono explains Mali poor show, pledges to make amends today.
Charlie had break already.
You know, I had to go and see the dentist around that time, and I was contemplating whether to watch the match or go, and I decided to go to the dentist. By the time I was done, it was 3-0. I was like, okay, goodness, if I hadn't gone.
Yeah, yeah.
But he's been explaining. He says, what is he saying here?
Charlie asked for explanation. Yeah.
He says, I don't blame the players for the defeat, but the key thing which resulted in our loss to Mali was that the team was not organized. The players didn't know themselves because most of them were debutants and was even the first time they were playing together. And so we trained for only 2 days and there was lack of understanding as well. Okay, so that's the explanation. Mali didn't play anything extraordinary, but they were organized side, which handed them
that
the
one
victory.
that one there doesn't matter. I think we should concentrate on our side. So we didn't get enough.
Says that people didn't play any ball like that.
So the 2 days campaign, it didn't count there.
So now they've had one more day and another day. So we'll see what will happen today.
Charlie, Black Stars.
But that's what CK Akono has been saying. You know, the interesting thing about CK Akono was that he used to be the coach of Kotoko, and he was sacked and replaced with Max Okunidu. Then you point to pick him to coach Black Stars, but we are patient.
Which people?
The Ghana FA.
Let's do the Daily Graphic News. Stop doing Kotoko. We're talking about the Black Stars.
Okay.
The Daily Graphic newspaper front page: use legal means to challenge election results. That's Otumfuo Osei to the second making that call. It's an honor to edit Daily Graphic Wednesday. That's the NSMQ quiz mistress, Dr. Effa Kaufman. She will be in charge of the graphic this Wednesday's edition. And here's the big story. The new trade facilitation platform, the integrated customs management system, has significantly impacted government revenue mobilization, even in the midst of COVID-19. That's according to the Commissioner of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Story, who says they raked in 3.7 billion revenue in 3 months. In the center spread, there's a news feature, policing in face of COVID-19. What I see is really professional, all in gloves with their mask on, keeping some distance. And I'm talking about the police as they interact with some drivers and passengers as well. But it is not always like that if you meet them. But what is here is pretty good. See? Pretty professional. We hope that all of them would behave like this. Back page, FDA rolls out safe disposal of expired drugs. President commissions 6.5 megawatt solar plants at Laura. From the graphic, we do The Finder. Front page of The Finder. Dr. Baumia assures Asante of MPP's commitment to peaceful campaign and elections. Ekufuado commissions 5.1 million Hamile Hapa water supply projects. Upper West gets 2,163 projects. There's a good breakdown of what's happening in that region. Payment to investors of defunct fund management companies has commenced. And then 17 presidential aspirants file nomination to contest in December 7 elections. 17. Let's do the Business and Financial Times real quick. Front page, Cocoa Board to spend $250 million on farm rehabilitation program. Spend wisely, broaden task base to close huge fiscal gap. That's the World Bank making that call. Fiscal deficit is tipped to hit double digits Economy still at high risk of debt distress. Kofi Ejapong Boateng receives CBE award for philanthropy, and Upper West resident welcomes solid waste plants at Berisi. Okay, there are other financial stories in the Business and Financial Times. Do you have one more paper?
Yes, the Ghanaian Times.
Okay.
The Ghanaian Times says floods wreak havoc in Accra, destroy property, render many homeless. And another one here says, we can't access NBSSI funds. I want Ghana to be cleanest city in Africa by end of my tenure. That's coming from the president. So we have about 2 or 3 months to go. CRI applauds winners, organizers of science and math quiz competition. Also on the front page. The back page here says, Ghana gas to build LPG bottling plant at Axim. And President inaugurates Laura's 6.5 megawatt solar power system. Also on the back page of the Ghanaian Times. On page 3 of the Ghanaian Times has this story about drama in court as mechanic is jailed for defilement. And so we are told that a mechanic was found guilty of defiling a 12-year-old girl in a vehicle parked at a mechanic shop at Dakuman. The story goes on to say that he was found guilty in a court presided over by Mrs. Christina Khan on the charge of defilement at the end of the trial. He had pleaded guilty and asked for mitigation as he maintained that he did not defile the victim. But soon after the judgment was pronounced in the courtroom, Tess' stepfather raised his hand in the air, saying he and his family had paid 3,000 cedis to the complainant, and yet his son was convicted. Okay.
So did he do it or not?
But that he said they paid 3,000. I'm not getting
so the 3,000 was for what?
I have no idea, because a criminal matter is between the republic and you, the individual who has committed the crime. And
maybe
so,
he should have paid the 3,000 to the states.
Well, it will still have been of no effect.
I know. But I'm just okay. So because you said the guy pleaded not guilty. He said he didn't do it,
some
right?
explanation here. He says that on the 3,000 cedis, the father said that he and the complainant discussed that they were going to give some of the money to the prosecutor and the police commander. Surprisingly, the complainant admitted collecting the money when a trial judge asked him whether the accusation was true. The complainant also told the court that they were approached by the convict stepfather and relations to collect 3,000 cedis to defray any cost incurred as a result of the matter. You see the disagreement. One says the money was to end the issue. The other said the money was for the cost of the medical bills and the medical bills and the other issues that had come up.
Okay.
Anyways, but the story is that.
But there was some 3,000 paid.
Yeah, it's not in
doubt. Now, when it doesn't count,
the complainant didn't deny it
decided
at
to
all.
give out the money. It doesn't take anything away from
the judge is quoted as saying that I don't take bribe here. I don't accept thank you gifts. Don't give money to anyone in court to be given to anybody. I am paid for the job I am doing. If you pay any money to anyone, that person is going to use it for himself. Of course, yeah, the person will use it for himself. But that is the story there.
Actually, bold move, eh? Well. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, you'd come in short. Have you done the daily guide?
Yes, we did a daily guide.
So let's do this. The bit about this. There's a story in the Ghanaian Publisher newspaper. You find it's on the front page. 7 face disqualification as EC prepares to announce qualified presidential aspirants. So apparently 7 of them who filed their nominations to contest the elections out of the 17 will be disqualified. The number is, however, likely to be pruned down, as information suggests some of the political parties would possibly fail the scrutiny test the Electoral Commission has put in place to study their nomination forms. The Technical Information Technology teams tasked to scrutinize the presidential nomination forms would submit their report to the EC today, and the Ghanaian Publisher is reliably informed that the Commission will disqualify at least 7 presidential aspirants representing smaller parties that are only active in a run-up to elections. Well, we'll see. If they cut down 7, then it means they'll be left with 10. But let's see what happens today. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo, you've been listening to the stories that we've been highlighting. Any story that you want to talk about?
Speaking of the smaller parties, the debate for the minority parties, the Joy Imani debate is coming on the 15th of October. That of the independent presidential candidates was a very interesting one from the UPSA. So you're looking forward to that of the smaller political parties, when you would have the likes of the CPP's candidates, the PNC's candidates, and others, Bridget Jabanuku and co, all coming face to face. We look forward to that. The cocoa rehabilitation program, we told they're dedicating 250 million Ghana cedis. Repeatedly on yearly basis, we get the figures being put out there about how much money is actually being invested in that. As to where exactly the rehabilitation is happening, we probably should commission Kwete to look into that. Kwete has been doing a lot of very good investigative cocoa-focused pieces, and let's probably try and sanitize the space, because obviously once the trees are beyond 25 years and we have the situations having to do with them being diseased, some of them you completely need to cut down the tree, and the farmers will need some form of support in order to do rehabilitation. Unfortunately, the money is announced for it and we don't see the end as far as this are concerned. So we wait to see how things develop. Interesting stories in the newspaper.
Yeah, they say that, and you'll be familiar with this, currently western, southern, and eastern cocoa regions are considered endemic areas, with most farms, according to the story, experiencing low yields due to being deceased. The program, after 3 years, is expected to propel Ghana's production to cover 1 million metric tons per annum. So I guess the issue is, after 3 years, we shouldn't be talking about this issue.
Yeah, but if I recall, some 2 years ago, they were talking about getting beyond the 1 million metric tons. It's interesting that it's coming back once again. I don't know, just were able to achieve that target?
Since we achieved it during the time of John Mahama, I think in 2011 or 2012, since then, we've not seen the figures shoot up to that level again. Over the years, it goes back to the point that, and for me, if those who are producing it find it to be profitable business, they'll continue to invest in it, and we'll see the tonnage go up. But the larger point is that what's the point in producing it in excess and having it so much on the market, and the price of the commodity keeps falling and you are earning less out of it? There's a possibility that if Ghana and Ivory Coast strategize better and do the things we need to do, it could probably keep production levels not exactly at a very high level, but still make good money out of it. But more importantly, we produce and export the large chunk of it. And the companies in the Netherlands, in the UK, are the ones who are making the bigger sums of it. And here in Ghana, although we produce the raw material, we are earning like 6%, 10% of the total value when it comes to the chocolate industry. Unless we take the necessary steps to say we are increasing processing, we want to control the market by ourselves, we can even produce 2 million tons a year, and the economy will not be all the good for it, but others will be the ones who benefit.
Yeah. We're going to jump into one more issue, but let's get myjoyonline.com ready so we can review what's on our page today. The Takwa and Swine issue, which was in our AM News, the bit about the underlying issue, Joseph Opoku, you were clarifying that over the weekend, not being political necessarily, but this is more of a chieftaincy dispute. But it's interesting that it's still around a man who was in the news not too long ago with Charles Bissue. And I guess that's why a lot of people were drawing in the internal political angle. Joseph, what are you picking? Is this strictly a chieftaincy matter, or it's got some internal politics in there?
So our very good friend, the Takwa and Swine MP, George Kiduka, he used to be a chief, and then he abdicated and decided to venture into politics. And looks like the problem in the area is that there are some others who want to get onto the chieftaincy title and lay hold of it, and there is a perception that he is in support of a different candidate, although the indication is that the chieftaincy has left his gate, if you could put it so, and moved to the other gate, and so the claim is that it's the other gates who are fighting among themselves. And the check that I did show that apparently the man who wants to install himself as chief had stepped out into the community with an entourage, allegedly including a number of facts, and they had gone to the MP's residence, and in the course of them walking around, there's a young man who happens to be the MP's nephew, I think, was videoing the guy who wants to be a chief and his entourage, and the thugs escorting him ordered the young guy to stop the filming, and looks like the young guy didn't, and they were upset about it. They moved in to attack the young guy. There were a number of people in the MP's home who tried defending the young guy, and then they were all assaulted in the course of it, with the wounds and all. We are told one person has actually been arrested in connection with this. As to how far it will go, we wait to see. But it's been lingering for a while now. Just a little over a month ago, there was again the complaint that that same house, that same neighborhood, there had been an attack on the MP by Viola Gate as well. It looks like it's a back and forth thing. The MP side don't appear to trust the police in the area and their capacity to change the situation under control. In fact, some time ago, there was a video that emerged on social media of the MP directly confronting the district police commander and accusing him of being bought by some other people in the constituency and all. And so looks like we need to pay attention to what is happening there beyond just the politics and all.
Yeah.
The as well. I'm told it's gone as far as to the Regional House of Chiefs, and aspects of the matter has gone to court. But then again, the point is we need to clearly draw the line between what exactly is happening and be clear in our minds that in this particular case, it's chieftaincy related, and that bit of it has to be done.
Yeah. Well, the police commander will be on our show this morning, so we'll try and deal with the criminal aspect of it.
If you would be able to get the MP as well, it may be nice, because repeatedly he's accused the police commander of a number of things.
I think it's quite unfortunate, and Joseph makes the point that, I mean, this is an MP that, I mean, quite recently has been involved in one issue or the other, and so we just hope that the police is able to get to the bottom of this particular matter. I've seen photographs of the incidents, not the blurred ones we put on our screens in terms of the news this morning, the actual ones. And
I couldn't watch.
It's crazy.
I mean, watch.
It's quite unfortunate that I don't know how. I get worried. I wonder how a human being is able to inflict such injury on a fellow human being. Use a cutlass to slash someone's head, cut deep, and oh goodness.
Yeah, I couldn't watch. Let's do myjoyonline.com real quick before we wrap up. And Joseph, tomorrow, God willing, we will talk about Ambrose Derry appearing before Parliament, and then we will talk about all the other issues that the MPs are worried about. But I must say, withdraws independent candidature after pleas by Akufo-Addo, Ochehene, and some others. Well, this is her. I must say, saying all that because, she addressed a press conference and she said, she didn't file because different persons had spoken to her, including the president, Ochehene, and I think some pastors or so. And that's why she isn't going. But she also talked about how she was unhappy with the primaries, the results, and wanted a recount, and that didn't happen. And then, of course, there are other stories related to the elections. And this one, Mali's transitional president thanks Akufo-Addo for his role in resolving political impasse. As you well know, our president is the chairman of ECOWAS, and this issue has been one that he's been at the center of with that high-profile meeting that took place in Ghana not long ago. And Nigerian government bows to pressure, disbands SARS. This is an issue in Nigeria, but that has also been linked to Ghana because some Nigerian residents in Ghana, they came to Ghana and they had some positive experience with our police. And so whilst they were talking about how unprofessional what they have in their country was, they were sharing the positivity. I'm not saying the story.
The story is that Nigerians were giving Ghana police funds for a good job done.
Okay.
You are doing a story.
A good summary.
Yes, that's the story. I mean, and if you've seen the NSAS, the videos that has gone on, the way that you'll be clear in your mind that those cannot be policemen beating people up all over. I saw a video of them chasing a lady who was driving with some gentlemen seated behind the car. Some of the protesters, they were chasing them and pouring water, and they had to jump off their car and fall on the road. So they were commending the Ghana Police Service because they had been in the country.
I haven't said anything different from what you're saying. No, mine was a bit long and winding.
Oh, okay.
Yours was more straightforward.
More direct, yeah.
Yeah. But listen, it's when you hear such stories and you see those things, you know that this can never happen in Ghana, even though some things do happen in Ghana, but
I agree with you.
But such things won't happen.
I agree.
I thought Joseph Gakpo smiling. Just 30 seconds on this and we're gone.
Some of those things can never happen in Ghana. Haven't we seen police shoot people all over? But the more important thing is that unfortunately, the real people they should be dealing with, they always are unable to deal with them as they ought to, including those, for example, who attacked the MP and killed him over the weekend. And then they end up turning the anger on other people. But specifically on that, Professor Michael Kwe will be at the residence of Ekoheford a little later today to go see the family alongside the leadership of Parliament. And repeatedly, the call is that the police should get to the bottom of this and bring the perpetrators.
All right, Joseph Gakpo, thank you. We will see you tomorrow, God willing. And then, of course, you also give us the updates. As you've just mentioned, the Speaker going to the Infantiman constituency, to the family of the Infantiman Member of Parliament who was sadly killed last Friday. Joseph Akable here.
Yes, I'm right here. There's some interesting sports content that Oreko is bringing. They've had an interview with the father of Thomas Partey. He's been explaining what influenced his decision to join Arsenal and how, even though he wanted to play Champions League football, which Arsenal will not offer him this season, he explained the fact that he urged his son on to get into Arsenal, because if they are not in the Champions League, then get them into the Champions League so that you can also play for them. And so it's an
so that's
interview.
The task.
Yeah, that's the task.
Oh, I
so
can't
we'll
wait.
From party after party's father. Yeah.
All right, that's all coming up. And Nadal backed in one huge one as well yesterday. The French Open, Oreko will bring us all those updates, including how badly we performed with that friendly with Mali. Stay with us. For most of us at the start of a fresh week, we need some inspiration. Our next story would inspire you to also pick something that you can do to change your communities. Parents all over the world work hard and brave the odds in order to give their children a good and comfortable life. But this next story you're about to watch is a tale of two parents who brave the odds in order to give hope to homeless children and children born to mentally ill mothers in the Upper East region. Felix and Mary started the God's Love residential home in Bolgatanga out of their compassion for less fortunate children. But when an infant was killed by her mentally ill mother in cold blood, the couple decided they would rather begin to rescue as many of such children as possible and give them a better chance in life. Here's a story by our Upper East regional correspondent, Albert Sorry.
The joy of family. This is the God's Love residential home in Bolgatanga in the Upper East region. Founded in the year 2003, this home for less privileged children started from a 2-bedroom apartment. Today, it is home to over a dozen children who are either orphans or are from less privileged homes. Mary Akampoy and her husband, Felix, started this home out of their compassion for these children. The aim was to help these children, give them some hope and a better chance in life. But they later decided to shift more of their focus to children born to mentally ill mothers. The reason behind this motivation was a rather sad story.
There was this mentally sick mother whose child was crying so much. All the women around were wailing at her to feed the child. She kind of got frustrated and just took the child out and hit the head against a rock in the market. And the child died instantly. And so this was something that drew our attention to the fact that this class of children need extra care.
Later in 2008, a philanthropist by name Alan Cameron from Jersey, through his organization Island Aid for World Children, supported them to put up this present apartment to house these children who have nowhere to go. But for all this support and the determination of Mary and her husband, these children here could have been without homes and without any hope of a bright future. Among them, this 1-year-old set of twins whose mother was mentally ill. These boys were rescued because their pregnant mother was discovered by a good citizen who realized she was mentally unwell and drew the attention of Mary and Felix to her.
We went to her rescue, traced through to get her family, took her to the hospital, and the good news is these two you see today.
Mary says the mother is gradually responding to treatment.
After delivery, we followed up with her on her medication, and today she is very close to normal. She comes here on her own to visit her children. And our happiest day will be the day mother and her children will reunite as a family.
There are 11 children currently in the God's Love residential home. Another 13 are being taken care of by the home, even though they do not live here permanently. Over the years, dozens of less fortunate children have come under this roof and gone on to become responsible adults in society. Rebecca Akomse, now a teacher, was once a child not too sure of her future until she was rescued by the God's Love residential home.
I lost my mom when I was not up to 8 years. So basically, they started taking care of me when I was in the junior high school. To me, I saw them and I still see them as my parents, God-given gifts, because what they always do for us, you can't imagine.
Like many charity organizations, God's Love residential home survives on the benevolence of kind-hearted people and the sacrifices of people like Felix and Mary Akampoy. But donations alone are sometimes not enough.
We also have a few times where some particular individuals may give us a donation, and this also helps us. But it is not consistent. It is not consistent.
This mentally sick mother, pregnant mother, she put to bed through cesarean section. But surely if she was left on the street, that would have been impossible. Today we have these two handsome boys. This is simply what we are saying. That together we can all make the world a better place.
For now, Mr. and Mrs. Felix Akampoy and these children will hope for a great future as they go through the journey of life together as a family, one step at a time. For Joy News, Albert Sori, reporting from Bolgatanga.
And from Bolgatanga, we're joined by Felix, who you saw him in that story there. Can we say good morning to you? Show everybody your face. A very good morning to you, Felix. Thank you so much for joining us live on the AM show. Hello, Felix.
Listening to this program.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Well, thank you. You know, when Albert first told me about your story, I thought, okay, it would be good to share it on a Monday when people are looking for inspiration here and there so that they can start their week. But tell me a little bit about yourself, you and your wife, Mary.
Well, just as you mentioned, I'm Felix Akampoy.
Yes, Felix.
I'm a teacher by profession.
Okay.
And my wife, Mary Amana Akampoy, is also a teacher by profession. And from the story, we heard that we started separately. When Mary was single, she did a lot for so many people, especially children, especially when she had her experiences with the way women who had mental issues treated their children. That experience gave her an idea that somebody needed to take care of children born to this mentally derailed woman. And so that was how she began. And she had already done a lot of things with children even before I met her. And also separately, as a single person, I was also having these children in my school that I used to take care of them. And so when we met, we realized that we shared similar visions. We decided to come together and we put up the programs together. And these projects ended up becoming one, where we could join forces to give smiles to these little children that we realized that they had no place in society.
So I listened to Albert talk about the fact that you rescue children who have mentally ill mothers. What happens to the fathers?
Well, it is difficult to talk much about the fathers because most of these women we talk about, I think if you come to the northern part of Ghana, especially in the Upper East region where we live, we realize that you find a number of women always roaming in the streets, especially of Bolgatanga and some of the smaller towns. Most of these women, you see them sleeping under uncompleted buildings or just on the open street. And most of them end up becoming pregnant whilst being there. They give birth to children, and it's always difficult to trace their fathers. We do not know those who are responsible for such pregnancies. And so it is the women that we are able to always find. And that is why our concentration is always on the women. But the fathers, it's difficult to really trace them.
Yeah, I can understand. So what happens to the mothers afterwards? So let's talk about the twins, for instance. The twins that you say the mother was ill when somebody discovered that she was pregnant. So you had to help the babies. I see Mary behind you. Hello, Mary. I'm not sure she can hear me.
She's hearing you.
Okay. Mary, God bless you for what you do. Thank you so much. This is so inspiring, I guess, to the rest of us, so we can also find something to do to help society. But I was asking Felix to tell us about the twins. What happened to the mother?
Yes. After discovering their situation, we followed up just as you read from the story. We took her to the psychiatric unit of the nearest clinic. And that was how it started. We had these two psychiatric nurses that gave us assistance even before she gave birth to the children. And after she gave birth, the hospital realized that she could not handle the children. And so they decided to separate them so that the children could have a better care. And from there, we started working with the psychiatric nurses. We had to provide drugs for them, and they took care of her. And from the story, Mary indicated that when you look at her now, she's very close to normal. And so that was how we were able to take care of her. And then she became well. As at now, she's very fine. She can, when she talks with you, you wouldn't know that she had ever been there. And so that was what happened.
So Mary, if Mary can say something to us, can Mary also, Mary, so what happens to these children? Do they stay at your place till they're old enough to be on their own? Hello, Felix. Did you get the question? I'm asking how long the children.
For some, the family members will usually follow up, and then they are able to. We are able to reunite them. We are able to reunite them back to their families. But for some, social welfare will have to adopt them out to families that will need children, because it's very difficult actually to trace some of the families. And then because of culture, some are really not accepted by the mother's families. And so they just come to say that you can have them do whatever you want with them. We don't need them. In such a case, we report back to social welfare, and social welfare will put them up for adoption.
So how many children do you have passed through your care so far?
Actually, we have not taken record of so many of them until we started recording. And so we have over 50 children out there that we have taken care of that are on their own. We have actually been on the secret note for a very long time, trying to do our own thing, partly because we believe what the right hand is doing, the left hand should not know. And then also of the fact that their mothers are not well, and society, anybody can easily tell them your child is in this home, and then they will come harassing us. And so for that reason, we have been on the low side for a very long time now, until Mr. Chris Akuba decided that no, it is time for us to actually bring out this project to the world, so that those who are like minds with us will come in to support, and then we can make it bigger. As we speak now, we have 6 children out there, but we cannot let them come home immediately because we are lacking mothers.
When you say, Mary, let's stay with this issue. Let's stay with this issue. When you say you have 6 children that you can't rescue, are they ill? Do they have mothers who are also mentally ill?
Yes, they have mothers who are mentally ill, and they are sleeping with them in the cold. Sometimes I get emotional when I talk about some of these things. They are lying with them in the cold, and newborn babies are part of these 6 that we are talking about. And we really love to bring them home, but you just have a few mothers, and you need to employ more, but then you have to pay them. And as you can see, private schools are closed down. That is our main source. And so it is a kind of a difficult situation for us now. And I think this is just so timely for us as a project.
Yeah, so I was just going to, so you and Felix still teach. You're only home because schools have closed.
Yes, please.
Well, what kind of, and this question is for me, personal. You know, sometimes we want to do something aside what we do in terms of the formal work, but there's always an excuse of not having time. How do you manage it? Because you're married and you're also professional teachers, and then you take on this. What kind of toll does this have on you?
Yeah, it's quite a heavy one, but when God calls you, He gives all the necessary graces you need to be able to carry on. So Felix and I have a lot on our hands, but grace has always taken us through.
Let me just, because I started this conversation with Felix, so let's go back to him. I don't want him to be left out of the conversation. Felix, how long have you been married?
We have been married since 2003, 17 years now.
Oh, great. So do you have children? I know you have many other children, but do you have children?
Sure, we have our own children. We have 5 children.
Okay. And do you live in the same compound with the other children?
Yes, we live in the same compound, but because of the growing numbers, we had to move out and then put up a smaller apartment so that we could stay in there, and then would stay in the main facility where the children are.
Okay. So what kind of support, because, you know, I can't stand the fact that their children, their newborn babies who are out there with their mothers because they're mentally ill and they don't have a home. And because you're restrained or constrained, you can't bring them in. What kind of supports can people give you so that you can have a lot more of these children live with you in a safe environment?
Thank you very much. I think when we are talking about support here, just as Mary indicated, one of the main issues has to do with feeding. Many times when the children come into the house, by the time they are getting into the home here, a number of them are always seriously malnourished. And sometimes you need to do a lot of work to be able to restore them to their normal health. Because you have them that will always miss the mother's milk, which is what is supposed to give them all the nutrition that they would need. And because they don't usually get it, sometimes when they come in here, it is always a very bad situation. And so the milk for these babies, and sometimes we have to get special nutrition for children that are not in their best of health. Aside the feeding, we have to employ women who would have to stay here 24 hours. Sometimes they have to stay here for as long as a whole 1 week or even 2 weeks before they can move. And sometimes this happens because the women that work are not many. And so if we are able to get financial support, we would employ more women that they can give them the best of care. We need other things that will also make the lives of the children, very comfortable.
Yes. Hello, Felix. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm all right.
Okay. I see that people are reaching out to you already because they've seen you on television. So before I let you go, just where can people find you if they want to support you?
Yeah. Our location is in Bolgatanga and a suburb of Soy. That is where we can physically be located. Aside that, people can also reach us through our email. We are yet to develop a website, which will hopefully come soon. But we are also on Facebook, and we have our lines that people can also call personally to inquire.
So just give us the name on Facebook and then the email address. I guess that would do.
Yes, the Facebook is Cameron School Complex and Orphanage.
Okay. Can you say that again?
Cameron's School Complex and Home and Orphanage.
Okay. All right.
Because we have kept the two together, the home and then the school, because they move together.
Okay. All right. Great.
So we developed a common Facebook for the two.
Let me have Mary say the last thing to me before I let you go. Mary, I just need some ideas. Maybe we can't rescue children whose mothers are mentally ill, but if somebody is looking for an extra something that they could do to help make the society better, what could they also do?
Yes, thank you very much. You can play a lot of roles in this whole thing. When you see them out there, you could be of assistance. At least ensure that these babies do not die out there. Give us a call and let's come to their rescue. This is aired, I know we will have enough space and the financial support to be able to take in a lot more. And so when you see them and you cannot give financially, at least you can give us a call or a text message that a child is at risk, a mentally ill mother is here. And then we can liaise up with the social welfare and come to the aid of that child.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you very much.
All right, so just give us the phone number. Is it you who give us the number or Felix Wood?
We have the phone numbers 055 2111 867 and 055 148 6711. People can reach us through these two numbers.
Okay. Felix and Mary, you're a beautiful couple. I would love to visit you in Bolgatanga, sometime. So maybe I would see you, but thank you so much for sharing what you're doing with us. Really, really inspiring. We really appreciate that. Oh, you see, technology. Just when we wrap up the conversation, they got frozen. But, I guess the conversation has been had, really. And I hope that you too can do something little in your community to make the lives of others better. Well, we'll take a breather when we come back. We're talking about the flood issue, just little rain. Sometimes they say tiny drops, and then you hear that a place is flooded. Many parts of Accra and then Kaswa as well were flooded last Saturday. We will share what people posted on social media with you, but we will also talk about the solution and what is really being done. Can we fix this at all? Or is it going to be like this and get worse in the future? That's all coming up here on the M Show. We're talking about the issue of floods. Are you tired hearing it? Are you tired watching us discuss it? Well, we live it, so we can't be tired of discussing it. We saw the rains on Saturday, and we saw the videos and the comments. Just a little reminder of how it all played out, and we're picking comments, tweets that people posted and videos that they attached to it. Before I show you all the videos, let me just say good morning to our guest, Dr. Clifford Amwako, Senior Lecturer at the Department of Planning at KNUST, research interest in urbanization and flood vulnerability. Good morning to you, sir. If you can hear me, there you are.
Yes.
Thank you. Good. Thank you for joining us.
And good morning to your viewers and listeners.
I am happy that you've actually done research, and one of your areas is flood vulnerability. So you're the appropriate person to have this conversation with. But before we begin, I want us to look at some of the videos that has been shared and the comments that came with it. Here we go. Let's pick this one from myjournline.com. The rains, and sometimes it's unbelievable. You would think that this is not Ghana. Yes, it is. And then we would show you the other videos that other persons posted and the comments that came with it as well. And this largely happened in some parts of Accra and Kaswa. In Kaswa, my colleague Maxwell Agbaba will be bringing us a live update, some of the places that we've seen submerged. He is there this morning, and you'll see the difference in terms of when it rains and where there are no rain. So these are videos shared on social media. Somebody asking, is this Accra? Yeah, the same question. Sometimes when you see it appear on the platform, the first thinking is, no, it's not Ghana. It's not Accra. But yes, It is. It is. And it's happening. We keep talking about it every year. I'll just be asking Dr. Clifford Amwako if it is getting worse, because for me, as a resident, just watching the videos, it feels like it's getting worse. There are more that we're sharing with you. And the comments coming with this. This one says, do we really have leaders in this country? Enough of the NPP and NDC. The youth must rise up for what we want. This is happening in Kaswa, Greater Accra. Kaswa is central, isn't it? So parts of the central region and Greater Accra suffered a lot over the weekend, particularly on Saturday, and that got a lot of people, talking. This one says Accra, more rain than everywhere. Turn brown. Yeah. It's really sad, isn't it? So, Dr. Amwako, I'm sure you've seen some of these videos, and I don't know if you also asked yourself, oh, is this Accra, is this Ghana? Or because of what you do, you already knew that we will come to this point?
Yes, thank you very much. As you have already said, it's getting worse. But I'm not surprised, because this thing has been on since the 1930s. There are geophysical characteristics of Accra that makes it susceptible to flooding. Largely, the area is very, very low lying, and therefore one should always expect some amount of flooding whenever it rains for a longer period. However, it has become a bit intense because of other factors which are related to the planning processes and the rapid urbanization of Accra generally. There are engineering issues as well. The drains, many of the drains have actually exceeded their capacity to be able to carry drains or carry water, storm water to various places. And development has also expanded to cover areas that were supposed to be sensitive in terms of the ecological importance, like wetlands and areas that are supposed to be left alone so that floods can spread without any serious harm to humans and life. But unfortunately, all these places have been developed, and therefore you are expecting that some of these things will happen. And for the past 10 years, it has been intensive and increasing. So I am not very surprised. This is something that if we do not do a few things right, we may have to discuss this yearly.
One of my colleagues, when we're doing the review, Joseph Akable, was sharing how he saw a 1970-something newspaper with then Prime Minister going through areas that had flooded because of rains.
Sure.
And that's a familiar scenario. We would have the rains, we will have officials go around, and now it looks like it's come down to an issue of money. But I want to ask you, because you're into planning, what have we been doing all these years as we've been visiting the places that get flooded, as we make budgets each year and talk about the issue? How have we been trying to solve it?
Well, thank you very much. We've been trying to solve it with a lot of pomp and pageantry approach, which will only attract political capital and so on, instead of doing the very basic things that will solve the problems, or if not solve the problem, help us to live with it in a more harmonious and smooth way than what we have done. We have rather concentrated on dredging. And I think that dredging the major drains is good, yes. But as long as people continue to develop in areas that they are not supposed to develop without any restriction, without any zoning code, we are likely to come back to square one. So what we have been doing has been mainly engineering, which is usually before the drains or sometimes after the drains or after the rains and flooding, and then a little bit of relief item distribution. both of which are not really helping. There are better ways. If you ask me, I will give you a few other ways. I think.
We will get to that in a bit. Let me also bring into the conversation Dr. Bob Ofe Mantiao, lecturer and research fellow at the Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies at the University of Ghana. Doc, thank you so much for your time. If you can hear me, good morning.
Good morning.
Great.
Good to be here.
Sure. So we know what is happening in terms of the patterns. The weather patterns also has something to do with climate change. Can you explain the situation with the climate and what we see in terms of the flooding? What's the connection?
Right. Well, once again, thanks for having me. I would want to be very cautious in making any direct attributions to climate change with regards to the floods that we've had and those that we've been having. But then the fact remains that the global climate is changing, which of course has implications for our national climate. We are expected from scientific projections to see more frequent rains. They are going to be more intense. Historical patterns of rains and weather systems are not going to be reliable, as we are witnessing. So that is a reality. And of course, climate change is caused by human actions. The reason I said I want to be hesitant in making direct attributions is, let's granted that climate is changing, granted that we're going to have floods. We've been aware of this for so long, and we've been called to adapt. We've been called to mitigate. So what it means is we need to plan for these situations. We need to do things that will prevent the kind of scenes that we see. So in a nutshell, the floods, the rains yesterday, the rains over the weekend and what we saw, yes, they may have been a part of a changing climatic conditions, but what we see and what you see on your screens now are things that could be avoided. So that is purely human actions and inactions. So there are things that we need to do to prevent these things, and those are the things that we haven't done. And that is why these events have become so predictable. I mean, we have this conversation, and we can have it again next year, next week, for sure. And that's the reality that we face.
So I'm just asking, because the things that you talk about are things that leadership is aware of, those who are supposed to be fixing the problems. Is it that we're not giving them the right information? Like, what is lacking? We're looking for a way out here, not to blame anybody, but...
Yes, if I understand you right, from a climate change perspective, yes, the science is there, and we connect as much as possible with policymakers, and they are aware of projections and things to expect and things to do. But then the reality is, I think it's a general policy planning and regulatory failures, and that is a typical problem that a lot of our big urban cities or towns are facing, and in particular, Accra. Look, a place like Kasua, which I have heard from different sources, is the fastest growing community in the West African sub-region. If that is true, what it means is it comes with a lot of pressure, a lot of planning pressure. A lot of these things should have happened before the settlement even came there, and it didn't happen. So yes, things that were to have been in place before the environment was built didn't happen. So basically what we do is we make adjustments as we go along, and I think I heard the other co-pilots talking about engineering. We engineer the system for convenience sake, and then it fails, and then we go back engineering. So we need engineering, but we also need engineering on the way we think and the way we behave, and that doesn't happen a lot, and that is the reason I said, yes, we're having this conversation. Let's go home and it rains again, and then we're going to be back having it again. And this has been happening for years.
Let me just go back to Dr. Moako and just, picking up on what Dr. Mantiao said. Dr. Mako, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So it looks like, we've got many other areas where we're not doing the gutters, drains, and there is fast development. Okay. So my question is, if we're truly learning something from what we see, then we should be correcting it at least with the new development. But that is also not the case. So how are we doing this? Where are we?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much. As my co-panelist has mentioned, we know, leaders know, and the various institutions are aware that these things will happen. The problem has been that the social and cultural cost of implementing what we know is right has been difficult. If we have to go by planning and planning standards, what it will mean is that we may have to do a few demolition here and there. We have to do forced eviction of some people who live in some ecologically sensitive areas. We may have to replan certain areas and make sure that all prospective developers go through proper permitting processes. The sites are inspected and the safety of the areas around are all ensured before building takes place. And these are seriously, these are the important things we are supposed to do. However, they have this social cost, political cost, a few other costs that are unwritten, which leaders and various professionals in various positions are not ready to pay. And that is actually the problem. So the problem is that if we should follow the law strictly, the tolls on which we'll be stepping will be too many, and nobody wants to risk that. So essentially, that has been the problem. That has been the problem because the plans are sometimes there, the layouts are there, the plot sizes, everything has been laid out, but to continuously monitor prospective developers to make sure that they go through the necessary planning and permitting processes before they build are not done, because the man can be the vice president of some place or can be an institutional head of some place. And so we have to lax the system to allow this social cost to go. And that's exactly the reason why we have not been able to solve the problem in the areas that are affected, and we don't seem to be doing it well in the areas that are yet to be affected.
Dr. Mantiel, can individuals also control what is happening?
Yes, we can. And, now let me talk about the climate change issue. I would always want to be cautious in making direct attributions, but then the reality is the global climate is changing. And what it means is we're going to have more uncertain events like this. Temperatures are going to rise, precipitation is going to increase, and they're going to be more intense. And we need to educate. People need to understand that this is the reality of our times, and there must be conscious processes that would involve the media, for example, in educating people that, look, this is the reality of the time. We need to prepare, and preparing means, taking care, taking personal responsibilities. For instance, building in wetlands and all those things, people should desist from doing that. Choking drains with waste and all other things, So part of, response to climate change is to adapt. We call it adaptation. And adaptation itself is a learned process. So when people don't have awareness and understanding, and then to learn about some of the mechanisms for adaptation, then of course we are going to have these situations. Look, it's troubling to see that even in the middle of these floods, we saw cars moving, trying to go through the floods, thinking they would survive. And if people were aware that these were things that are risky, they are dangerous, they could take their lives, then of course they wouldn't take such risks. The other thing I want to also emphasize is, we tend to put all these things under what we call natural disasters or even disasters. But then the reality is, disasters don't just happen. They are things that our actions and inactions cause disasters. They trigger these rains to cause disasters. So people need to understand that if the rains come and we are prepared, if the floods come and we are prepared, then of course we can live with it because we are prepared. And that is what means we have adaptive capacity. But when we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the awareness, and when we don't even have that personal disposition to take responsibilities, then these are things that they're going to be like it is now and probably forever, unfortunately.
Dr. Amoako, we are in a rather interesting period where we will have leadership come to the people. So it's a good time for them to put a few questions to them. So I'd like to ask you, specialists, if you like, what should we be asking them in terms of the solution? What should we be demanding from them now that we may have some kind of direct access? Dr. Amoako.
Right. Thank you very much. I think we should be demanding for basic things, like, for example, where is the hazard map of Accra? Are we sure we've been able to map all areas in Accra that are prone to flooding? And we have been able to, for example, mount various giant boards of these hazard maps for people to know that these areas are flood prone, and when you live here, you are in danger at any time. So we should be asking for where the hazard maps are. We should also be asking of where the early warning systems are. Do we have a system that is able to warn us early enough? And the various communication channels for giving the early warning systems in all languages to everybody. We should be asking these basic questions. We should be asking questions about evacuation plans. How do we get evacuated? And I'm saying all these things, or I'm asking all these questions because it appears we have come to live, or we are supposed to be living with it now. And therefore, we should be asking, how do we evacuate people from these areas and so on? And when we evacuate them, for example, where are we going? So people should be asking our leaders basic questions for the short term. In the short term, where are these things that will help us to at least live with it? Then in the long term, we should be asking questions about why are we not increasing the capacities of the drains? Why are we not following planning codes and making sure that prospective builders build at the right places in the right, frameworks? We should be asking questions like this. Why is it that we are not sensitizing our people and making them aware of where they live and how they should behave around this time? In any case, if you ask me, the number of flood days in the entire year will be about between 14 and 18 days. So preparing for 18 days, using the rest of the days of the year, I think should not be a problem. But it appears it is, because these basic questions have not been asked and answered. So we should be looking at these questions from our leaders.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mantea. From your side, anything that you want to empower us with?
Yes, I think Dr. Amoako said it right, but then I think he was very economical in talking about social and cultural costs. The real cost is the political cost. So we need to, and this is the time, we need to get our politicians as they come closer to us to answer these questions. The political cost is, and the political action needed is people, there must be demolition. People need to move from where they are. Where is that political will? Are they able to do that? So when they come and we ask them those questions and they can look straight into people's eyes and provide the answers, then of course we would also know what to do with them. But yes, political will is the problem with the flooding that we see almost on an annual, predictable basis. The lack of it.
Can would we get to a point where we would see experts like yourself, you belong to different groupings? Can we see you all come together either to petition or on behalf of the people? Because we don't have the kind of expertise that you have, so that leadership would also appreciate the seriousness of the issue?
Certainly. I mean, I don't think petition is the way to go. We work in where we do the things that we do where we are. We do research, we publish, we communicate our research findings to policymakers. And the point about research is to inform policy and decision making. So that is what we do. And I'm sure that Tamwako will tell you we do it almost on a daily basis. You know, we go to meetings, we go to workshops, we tell them what is happening, so they are aware. So it's not a case of petitioning. Maybe what we should do is gather around the flood areas and then say, we told you so, you know. So, but it's not so much about petitioning. We do it all the time. Our publications and all those things, our policy briefings that we do, they have it. But yes, maybe one of these is we need to gather when these things are happening and say, we've always told you.
Yeah. Dr. Marco, anything you want to add to what he said?
I think Robert has said all, because that's what we do all the time. In fact, in the last 2 years, we have what they call the Ghana Urban Forum, and I've always come there to do a presentation, and usually the chair and all the big men at the table are people in authority, and they hear this. In fact, I even one day said, we have cheaper ways of solving this problem, like basic things like getting software for early warning systems, building areas that we will call safe haven, and evacuating people, at least to minimize the amount of damage that is done and casualties that we record. And one of the people whose name I will not mention was smiling because I looked like a funny person to him. So it looks like we are not committed, as Robert has said, we are not having the political will to implement the many things that experts and professionals are saying, and that's the problem. Otherwise, we have said it severally, and they are aware. In fact, even this forum you have given us, we are speaking to somebody in authority, and they should be listening. They should be doing some things right.
Yeah. But Dr. Marco, this is not just an Accra problem. It's been raining a lot in the Ashanti region as well.
Yes. In fact, many places in the Ashanti region are also suffering the same fate as in Accra. Only the damage is much reduced here, probably because we still have not gotten to the choked position where Accra is. But we will get there very soon if the right things are not done. But it's not only even in Kumasi, the smaller intermediate towns like the Kofodias, the Sunyanes are all having their fair share of flooding. Only it has not gotten to the stage Accra is. And we may get there if we don't really do something very quick.
Yeah, Dr. Mantea, I mean, I want to have a lot of hope. With this, do you see that we're beginning to fix it? Like, are there things, underlining things that give you the impression that we are actually onto solving this issue?
Well, I would want to believe that at least something is being done, some things have been done. But let's look back from June 3rd of 2015, is that right?
Yes.
And that was monumental, what happened. And you would have thought that that was going to trigger real transformations in the way we plan our urban settlements. And between 2015 and now, I'm sure, I don't have the numbers readily, but I'm sure, and you probably would also be aware that we've seen a lot of these happening, So even if something is being done or something has been done, what is it? Is it sufficient? Is it enough to avert some of the things that we are seeing on a regular basis? So a lot more needs to be done. A lot more needs to be done. And some of these, what needs to be done should be radical in the sense that we need to gather the requisite political will and then take into consideration whether cultural or social costs and do just what is right. Just what is right. And it is that reluctance or inability to do what is right that is what is bringing us here to talk about these things almost on a daily basis, So I wouldn't say nothing has been done. Some things are being done. The engineering side is we all see the dredging going on, but then everything shows that the dredging hasn't solved the problem, and it probably won't. So there are different things that need to be done at the same time, and of course we need to gather the policy commitment and the regulatory will to do all these things, and that is what has not happened, I would say.
Well, gentlemen, we have to leave the conversation here, but I'm happy that you've empowered us enough to at least ask the right questions and so that we know what we are saying. So that when they say, oh, we're desilting, we're dredging, we don't just sit back and be happy with that, because we know that will not solve the problem that we are faced with today. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
That's Dr. Mantiao and Dr. Amwako there helping us with this issue of the flood, something that happens every year. Well, apart from it happening every year, just like Dr. Mantiao said right there, could happen next week, and we'll be back talking about it. But now you are empowered enough when the political leaders appear at your doorsteps, and they have already. Some of them are even doing door-to-door. You know that we've got big issues that we need them to solve, and you have to put the right questions to them. The time is now. Fortunately, we have bigger access to them. So we're going to cross over, go to our roving man today, Maxwell Agbagba, coming to us. Do we have Maxwell joining us? Okay, we're going to go to our roving man in a bit, but for now, this is where we leave the conversation. We've got other conversations that we will have. We're talking about the Takwa Nswaim issue. Remember that, where some persons were wounded, slashed, really, if you saw the videos, if we were bold enough to see the videos. Most of us couldn't. It was too gory for us to watch, but what is really happening? We'll have that conversation also coming up next. Thanks for staying with us here on the AM show. Now, let's go roving. Maxwell Agbagba is joining us from the Wager STC Junction. But I also want to tell you about how the place looked like on Saturday after or during the rains, really. This was captured. You see it on your screens where Maxwell will be reporting from. So just take a look at this video carefully. And let me say hello to Maxwell Agbagba. Same place after the rains. You would see how it looks like when it hasn't rained. But this was the place on Saturday. So, Maxwell, let's say good morning to you. Tell us exactly where you are. We've shown the video of the place on Saturday. And there you are. Is this same place?
Yeah, same place here in Wager, and Mamavi, as you can rightly see, the road, the stretch actually was blocked, the stretch heading to Kaswa, and then Cape Coast was blocked. And because it was a weekend and a lot of people were also heading to Cape Coast and it environs, it created some kind of chaotic, situation here on the stretch. We're told by persons who witnessed it that a lot of vehicles got stuck. For persons who had vehicles that they thought could not, go through the flat water, they had to use alternative routes. Some of them actually had to park their cars, very close to some safe places here, and then, walk through the flat water before, they got home. So that was a situation that was created here, and for a lot of the sellers and a lot of the people who do business here on Friday, I mean, there was nothing like business for them. They couldn't work because this whole place, was flooded, and this road, a section of this road was also, truncated, to traffic. Let's interact with people here, find out from them what the situation was like. Sir, you're welcome to join me.
Major Moso.
Okay. In the catcher, weekend, monona, about the same, I didn't know, massa.
The higher man say, company be here from Amandi. Almost see at 9 hour top war. Omuni gota. Enti ahwiano mo tutu ni nsuo ni ntinti e ba na epia ahwiano. E de ba. Ana to so mo ho so na what is more no. Omo asi dan kaka omo anyi gota bia wo ho. Ana Shoprite Mekom so omo aye free station woni mo. Omo so omo anyi gota bia wa ti nsuo no ta epia ahwiano ba na ba broko. Gota no ti gota so emususa. And I'm saying, I broke on the side, and to me, I ain't you know, Buafaso. But Saturday, the authority, BC, we had that. My time was 20 years. Saturday, who be had that. And I thought I was going to be anywhere else. Into a bassa, not a Bufaso, not a Cosocarquano. Saturday, cast better 7 and a meme. Okay. And this a man by who be the omission on measure. No, when you go to be about boy, move by ya, you shouldn't have from where they are.
Mupesa abang bayong bibi na monsu amuti potemo hano monsu eden na mo ya dia fa ho. De ya nso yete ba na say ha no na nsu yata emu mfa so ha. Enti si na obi ani obi nya na adwene say obaye bibi afa ho say obroku nsuo. But si na abasa na omunyina eye contribution say obi a bapa gota ewo nanim. Se na ba ya nsuo no ta e ba fa mu ayeden akọ. Okay. Enti si na aban ma hwa na onya hu bibi mae. But Monso, Osha, senior Adianis Fatiano, important half for Muntiminko Yi Mu got us no more Muntiminko Yimuana. The way I go down on Marco Vaso. Okay. In the years of Omui, and I answer Marco Vaso or Musili, only Bini, or Mosili. I don't do me with them. Okay. I did Omubu no man Cassia. Okay. Cassia is your Tomu, I said, I can see a Sunday, and you to me at a sim at him. But I'm saying, so to me with them. Okay. And okay. Okay. Well, essentially, what he has been telling me is that the flooding that happened here on this stretch was a result of the choked drainage systems. He also talked about the constructions, some constructions and waterways. He specifically mentioned the. He mentioned, some buildings in waterways he think actually caused the flooding here on this stretch. I was asking him whether as residents, whether they cannot, as part of communal labor, go and desilt the choked drains. He tells me that the drains are actually covered, so it will be difficult for them as residents to go break it and try and desilt it. He says for the ones that they are able to desilt, they try to do that. The one that passes in front of their homes and all of they try to do it. But for some of the drainage systems here, they've been covered. So it'll be difficult, for them to desilt, those drainage systems. He tells me that about 7 vehicles got stuck in the flood water over the weekend. He says he's lived here for about 20 years and he's never seen anything like that in his life before. And indeed, we saw the video, we got horrified by it. We saw how vehicles were stuck in there. We've never actually seen anything like that before. Let's speak to another gentleman who repairs ties here. Let's find out from him what the experience was like. Senior, I'm join you soon.
Okay, I'm Jamuso.
We can know to me, Juma Ohana.
Me pacha dabi.
Insiona tahano na about the same.
Okay, insiona ya wahano. So every year gates no. Ya gates na wase omusha maya na omoya maya na ntumi mbwae.
Gates na yeden.
Gates no mwesi ka wase omuyimu gates na esoso and the first so it's if top one about top one no gata bia internet bus and I had any na so a man so no high and so we my
if we can not I didn't see you what me ejuma and I ties near the idea we are lucky in so no answer mo anko I say bibi answer bibi
I say bibi ba shada nyeke se bia
okay
by ejuma no so yantuma anye bebre na o na manye ejuma yeso yantuma anye ejuma
okay but I say okay so it looks a case that the residents here seem to they know the problem They know that it is as a result of choked drains, but many of them we've been speaking to say they are helpless about the situation. The gentleman I just spoke to also is talking about, choked drains. He tells me that over the weekend he was unable to work because of the situation. He says although some of his properties got damaged, they were not significant as one would have thought. He said some of these things got destroyed, but not many of them got destroyed in the floods. But all the people we've spoken to here in this community know the problem. They say the problem is choked drains, but they seem helpless about it, Bamavi.
Yes, Maxwell Agbagba, thank you very much for the live updates. But one of the other things that we've learned from the professionals that we spoke with is that choked gutters not the only solution, part of the solution. There is a much more bigger way in solving the problem. So it's not just desilting gutters and talking about choked gutters. Maxwell Agbagba there live from Wager SCC. That place looks clean, just like you're watching on the screen right now. But wait for it to rain and you would see the difference. You'd find it's very unbelievable that it's the same place. Well, you're watching the AM show. We still have show business coming your way with Kadi. But before she comes up, I want to share the good news with you. My producer, Derek Ecclesam, got hitched on Saturday. We were all in Kumasi to celebrate with him. Here are some videos that we want to share with you as we say congratulations to Echo and his wife, Abina. We wish you a happy, blissful marriage. May you be fulfilled throughout this journey.